You guys will read through the previous minutes from last month's meeting and see if there's any additions or corrections. I actually did all the stuff that's on the list I said I'd do. That's a good one. So like you got the basketball court opened up?
Yeah.
Yeah. The church wants to use that for something. I don't know if Trevor has more information.
Now his wife has been in the hospital and she's had an operation, so I haven't had a chance to go over.
Okay.
Who's?
Pastor Chester.
Oh, he did. She was.
I think it's the first or second weekend in June. But, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Nobody's usually back there. Kids might be back there maybe, but
No, we were asked about opening up the last week.
yeah. So.
All right, everybody have a chance to read through the minutes? Well, before we get there, are there any additions or corrections? No additions or corrections? All right, I stand approved. Treasurer's reports. See all the money in bank stuff things. I get a special attaboy for that.
This is clear too.
Yeah, he got in trouble last week. He got a
I
little
did.
smack on the hand.
Oh.
A big check, you know? I mean, come on. Supposed to cash up for the ink dries.
All right, everybody have a chance to look through the treasurer's report?
Hey, we only lost $40.
Yeah.
We put together too flat.
Oh, man. All right, do we have any discussion on the treasurer's report? No discussion. Do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
Bill, do we have a second? Keith is second. All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any nays? All right, it's approved. Bills.
Just the standard ones, the Burkheimer's Electric, and then we got 2 bills from Randy, Morrow, and Larry.
Pass this around. Larry rebuilt our cover for our well out here, which is needed. I was able to get it off and get it back on whenever I did the water for the restroom. But yeah, we really needed that.
That's one. One's real big and one's real little.
Oh, same thing.
Yeah, no, 2 bills, 2
Oh.
separate ones. This one he sent before our last meeting, but for some reason his email never made it to me, so he resent it. It was after the meeting.
Aren't gonna miss it.
For those guys that I emailed the agenda to, there's a new address on there that you'll see, and that's Randy's.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
When
didn't look at it.
When I talked to him on the phone, I asked him if he wanted a copy of our agenda, you know, just for his knowledge of what's going on, what we're saying. And so he agreed that he would like to have it. So I sent it to him as well. I didn't know if he'd come tonight or not.
He can't. He has other meetings.
Oh, he's got another meeting tonight.
Yeah. I think his own borough down there.
He was a busy guy. just as an aside while you guys are catching up on the bills, I started going to the Green Township meetings now, every month, so I'm gonna continue doing that as best I can. They have theirs on the first Tuesday of the month, and it's slated for around an hour, so it goes a tad longer. But there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. So
Did you go to it this month now already?
yes,
Yeah, it was last week.
it was. Yeah, I think they like having somebody from here up there too, just in case there's any questions about our involvement, doing road work together and all that kind of stuff. So, makes sense. Okay, bills have been around. Is there any discussion on the bills? No? All right, do we have a motion to pay the bills? Keith makes a motion, I'll second. All those in favor, aye? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, that was good. Visitors. Slick, you got anything for us?
No, Trevor, when did you say that they might be, the church might be using that?
It's either the first or second weekend in June. I'm not 100% sure.
I'll make sure it's clean before then.
He's got something for the kids. He's
Yeah.
doing there, I guess.
Is it their Bible school thing that they do?
Yeah, and I thought, as soon as we get a firm date of what they're looking for,
Yeah,
that we could make a quick sign up
okay,
to reserve it for that day, just so
Yeah.
that they don't run into any issues with
right.
just the normal access that folks have to it. Just to help them out a little bit. What do you think? Sound like reasonable?
That'll work.
Yeah. Our other visitor, if you introduce yourself, please.
That's all right.
You're all right. I know that Green Township has a sign-in sheet. We don't typically do that because we don't typically get visitors for the most part. But you don't want to declare who you are?
No.
Okay. Is that good, Paul?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. The gentleman is from the Beaver County.
From who, where?
The Beaver County. Have you ever been out to the website?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Onward who? Borough restroom, that opened up, no problems, no leaks, nothing broke. That all worked out pretty good. So come election day, we'll be all good for that. I did cut the breaker back off there again though, because I think Slick mentioned that there could be a leak down in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I cut the breaker back off again for it, but it all works fine. I flushed all the lines, all that's good.
So it'll be okay for Tuesday for election day?
It will be. Yep. In fact, I'll come over the night before just to make sure, or the day before. Green Township Planning Commission, as I mentioned, I didn't get to make the last meeting. They were going to talk about that distributed antenna systems and talk about whether or not, well, not whether or not, but they are planning to do an ordinance, but they want to review the ordinances that were there and take a look and see, what's going on. So the premise is that if you don't have an ordinance, you have no control. So you should have an ordinance. They're still, as far as I know, they're still going back to the state to get some kind of utility type status so that they don't have to try to meet the requirements of every community that they go into. So who knows how that's all going to pan out, right? I mean, that's what the electric company did way back in the day to finally run power out to rural areas and stuff. So who knows what how that's going to pan out. But for due diligence, we probably should consider an ordinance for that, I think. What do you think, Paul? Have you seen some more information on all this?
I haven't had any of those in the other municipalities. There's been some discussion, but I haven't had anyone interested in doing an ordinance yet. I think it's still something that's been passed around there. I know that at one place it was discussed that Pennsylvania Association of Boroughs was looking into this, waiting. People are waiting some recommendation or responses from them. But,
Right.
I really don't have any doing anything with that at the
With
moment.
that, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I think right now Green Township's just getting started on it. So. All right, any questions on that? All right, 475 Main Street. The owner of that's the old second house. The owner of that wants to go through the grant system. So Randy has started that process to get it put in, to get the demo done for you. And again, that's the deal where it'll get torn down and then 20% a year is written off on that cost. So at the end of the 5 years, the owner gets the property back clear. So that's the way he wants to go with it. So speaking with Randy about it, we'd all rather they spent the money and tore down their own homes. But as Randy had mentioned, the money is there for that use. Other communities are using it as well. And if we're in a situation where that's the best solution, which in this case it is, then that's the way we should probably go. So that's what he moved forward with. 476 Main Street, as most everybody's seen, is the talk of the town.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to talk about it up at the Green Township meeting too. The log cabin home, that's been torn down to that level. So, and I guess there's mixed stories about who's interested in it now, but it's been getting crowds down there. And the folks from the Heritage Society have been there, right?
Historical Society.
Yeah, the Historical
They've all
Society's
been down there. Betty Broad Merkel,
Yep.
Baron Elliott, other people down there.
Yeah, so there's some interest in it. So in a way, that's a whole lot better than watching it go up in flames. So hopefully that'll get done. He just got the dumpster out of there, so I'm going to try to get some nice pictures before they go ahead and start this.
All they're waiting for is that whoever they contract to take it down.
Yep.
To do everything in an orderly manner.
Yep. So the weather, I think, is supposed to be with us this weekend, so hopefully get over and get some shots. Anything else on that? Anybody have any questions on those two homes? All right. Next item down.
Can I ask a question about the one over on?
It's our new business.
Oh, is it? Okay, go ahead.
All right. First item on the new business is Pittsburgh Grade Road. Bill did us a service. They were running triaxles on there, and he got with the foreman and got them to stop running the triaxles on there. And I'll turn over the rest of the update to you.
I tell you, we're just waiting for them to contact us. Chucky called, what's her name, Gwen?
Well, she contacted me. Gwen
okay.
works. I think she's a third party that works for that Shell pipeline. So I didn't want to steal your thunder.
Oh no, that Gwen, she's a like an in between the Shell and like us, and I guess she's waiting for a what do they call it, a bid to see what it costs her to remediate our road when they get done.
Yeah.
And remediate, that's what Maggie recommended. She did not recommend us bonding it or anything. She said we would not get anything out of it.
Yeah. So
they only got paid what $12,000 a mile.
Yeah,
that's all they got for Pittsburgh Grade Road.
That's the PennDOT thing, and we get a lot less because it's shorter than a mile.
Yeah, we only got what 120 yards.
Yeah. So originally they said, well, if you guys think about bonding the road, and I don't know anything about it, right? So I contacted the road crew, and the feedback was that the tar and chip that you get at the end of that process wouldn't repair the road in such a way that it wouldn't continue to deteriorate. Yeah. So even though it would be sort of glossed over, fixed okay at the beginning, that it wouldn't hold up over time and it would cost us a bunch of money. So their recommendation was this remediation where they dig down like 10 inches?
No, 14. That was Maggie's recommendation. She said, I wouldn't do nothing less than that. She said, it's either remediation or don't let them use it.
So they dig down 14 inches and mix in some cement, let that sit a few days, and then top it all off. You end up with a really decent road bed of that. They've been made aware that there's a French drain on one side of that. And so Gwen got back with me and said, yeah, even under those circumstances, they're still interested in using the road. So she was going out to get bids.
They have
3 bids. And they haven't gotten back to us, no. Because their other option is to use the access road for Green Township. Green Township voted and allowed them to use that, or go all the way around. So that's their choices, and apparently they still want to use it. So if they do, at the end of the day, we'll end up with a better road surface than we, would otherwise. Yeah.
Well, by the way, what little bit they used it with their big trucks, that new asphalt we put down on the French drain side is already broken.
Yeah.
Cracked.
Yeah, because they were using the triaxle dump trucks on there.
Yeah, carry loads of slag, pipe.
Yeah. So here's my thought on this, is that when that comes, I told them, you know, when our meeting cycles are. And we don't want to hold them up, but at the same time, if they don't get on their horse to get it done, they're just going to have to wait for another meeting, our general scheduled meeting, rather than try to schedule another, one in between, because you have to post it and all that, right, sunshine laws. So we're going to try to hold them to our regular meeting schedule for that. So what's everybody think? My thought, and what, talking to Maggie, was I thought personally that if Maggie was happy, the road crew up there at Green Township was happy, and if Paul is happy with whatever the agreement that gets written up, that I could probably support that. As far as doing the bonding of the road and such, since Maggie was suggested that we don't do that.
Yeah.
And my thought was, well, I probably wouldn't support that personally. So this is just a discussion point. There's no decision to be made at this point. They may never come back to us with their 3 bids, right? They may just decide at the end of the day they're not going to do it. But
They're almost up to the road.
yeah,
They're gonna wanna do something quick when they wanna do it, that's the problem. They ain't gonna wait for the next month.
yeah. Well, we could talk about it, but I mean,
Yeah.
how many days ahead, Paul, does this stuff have to be in the paper?
Well, he by statute, it's like a 24-hour notice. However, to get an ad in the paper, you need generally like 3 days.
3 days. That's what I thought.
For that first special meeting, put an ad in. Now, I mean, for what you're doing now, I mean, basically what you're looking at, they're going to get back to you with some response. I don't know that you have anything to act on at this point, right?
We don't. No, it could be they never even come back to us. This is just a discussion, inform, see if other folks felt the same way that I did. That, if these 2 people are satisfied, then that's probably something we could support, and all those kinds of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's been that situation in the past where they have gone in and fixed these roads that they've used. Basically, they're doing the same thing in green, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would just want when they're probably going to address that all around the same time. You have someone out there that's on top of that as well. You just want the communication to be going on here, and they'll generally respond to that. I have found that they are responsive. And it's true about the bonding. The bonding is only for that fixed amount. If they are using that road and they're telling you that they're going to redo that, you are going to end up with something better. Typically, though, what we like to see is the person that you're talking to there, they can give you something in writing saying that that's what they intend to do. There's been times with some of these outfits where the person that's coming in talking to you today is not around in 6 months. They're back in Oklahoma or wherever they're from. So I would just stay in contact with them and see what communication you get from them. Be in touch with Green Township so you're on the same page.
Right.
Green Township's not gonna get remediation. They bonded theirs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go the cheap route then, really.
Well, they are, but they're part of the COG and all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? So when you're up there, when they talk about renting equipment and stuff, they've got better resources. So.
And they have what they call that load road too. That's that slag road. They can take as much weight up there they want.
Right. All right. I think that's pretty much the story of what's going on. Is there any questions or discussion? Nope. Just thank Bill. Thanks for stopping him from running on the road,
Oh,
man.
God, I gotta run around on that deal.
Those aren't easy conversations to have with.
I was screaming at people.
Yeah. Well, the foreman's like I've run through sometimes on those job sites. He's probably screaming back.
No, the foreman wasn't. It was a truck driver that was screaming.
Okay.
You ain't supposed to be on this road. You were right past a 10-ton weight limit sign.
Yeah, well, you saved
By
whatever
the time I got to
damage.
the boss, he already knew it. He was on the phone with his boss. When they tried to tell me, oh, we have permission on that. I said, no, you don't.
Yeah,
I'm on
they,
council. Nobody gave you permission. Oh, yeah, we do.
yeah, they thought it was part of their agreement with Green Township.
Yeah.
They didn't realize it was a separate community that owned that piece of the road. So, yeah, it was an honest mistake, but thank goodness somebody was around before the road got torn up even worse.
Yep, all that new asphalt we put on it was busted. It's cracked. I was looking at that today.
All right, the next item is also sort of your item there, Bill. It's 322 North Washington Street. Bill had let me know that he got a call from Randy saying that he had started the conversation.
Yeah, he's talking to Richard Zima. They're going through the same conversation they had with the one that
With the old second house.
second house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that change? Because when I talked to Randy last week, he said that he was looking at tearing that down and checking into putting a trailer on there.
Yeah, well, he's in discussion who's going to tear it down or how it's going to get torn down with Randy. I told Randy, I said, he's been calling me and texting me and stuff. And I says, tell them to take their own money. Make them use it, tear it down. You know, this is a business. They got money. They got workers. They can tear it down in probably a day and a half with an excavator.
They want to put a trailer in there.
He's supposed to be looking into if he can and what the rules are with putting something
They
in
want to tear it down. I don't know what the rules are either for that.
Most importantly, I mean, I've talked to Randy as well, and most importantly, the first issue is get it down. All right.
Exactly.
And I think that's what he's hitting home with that person. He started those discussions, basically telling them, hey, look, this is, you can't have it the way it is, so present some options to him, and he's going to follow up on that to make sure that what he does in the future with that property is another issue. It's the issue right now is that that building's in violation of the ordinances and it needs to come down. I would just await further report from Randy because I know that he has talked to him recently.
Richard Zima's the guy's name.
That's who's on record with the counties of there. I popped on just to make sure I had the right address.
Yeah, everybody thought they had their place for sale, but there's trucks parked out there. There's no for sale sign no more.
I think he was up on.
Yeah. I thought about that business. I thought they was going to sell it or something.
Yeah, his two son-in-laws are working out of that building.
Yeah, and I see there's no for sale sign no more.
They have a plumbing business,
No.
and his two son-in-laws are working.
Good.
That is what I heard. And she's still working at the hospital, his wife, so they haven't moved yet.
All right. Well, this is the subject you asked about. So did you
No,
have any
this
other
wasn't the
questions?
house I was.
Oh,
it
it's
was
not.
the one above it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Is
that-
there
that's
a
on.
hose running across the street up there?
I just come through there at night, there wasn't, but I know they have water issues.
I used to take water to
Yeah.
twice a
And
week.
now they're not delivering water, so he's probably getting water from.
He's running water, a hose across the street from.
But there wasn't one there tonight, because I did come up that way and down, but he's going after them next for this.
Yeah.
That particular home is on Randy's list.
Yes.
Okay.
Once once dangerous structures were cleared out, or taken care of, scheduled.
He might even hit them, but just in a quiet period. He
Yeah,
thinks
when I
all-
took water over to him, I warned him a couple times, you need to get this mess cleaned up.
Well, I thanked
Randy's
Randy,
out of it.
because I told Randy in just a couple months he got more done than we could manage to get done over a couple of years before. So I made sure he understood and appreciated his
Yeah,
efforts
I've told him that
to
too.
our behalf and that, yeah. Because he's really gotten after it, and in a very nice way from what I can tell. He's you know, had friendlier conversations with the folks, so.
He's not done with the other one down there too, that tore down a house and left a mess behind. Yeah, he's not done with that one either.
No.
The garage is next.
Yeah, that's also on his list as well. But the major danger structures, we
Yeah.
address those first, so. All right. Any other questions or conversations on that? All right. Sewage enforcement officer. So we haven't had a need for a sewage enforcement officer for quite a while, for years here. But things are coming up, right? So discussion about whether or not a trailer will go on North Washington Street on that property. The SEO is going to have to answer the questions about, you know, the sewage piece of that kind of thing. So Green Township had the same sewage enforcement officer as we currently do, and they were not getting responses from them. They were taking weeks to get back to people. So at the very last Green Township meeting, they replaced their SEO. They replaced it with this, what's her name here, EADS group. They're out of Altoona, PA. And they are opening an office here in Beaver County. They're also the, what's the commission there in Beaver? Can't think of the name of the commission. They're listed on the Beaver County website. Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber of Commerce contacts, they're listed in the Chamber of Commerce contacts as well. So just as a thought, as we're moving forward, we are going to have some.
It's getting hot in there.
Yeah.
So we are going to have some SEO stuff coming up. I'm going to need one if I decide to put something on my lower property, because I'm going to have you know, SEO and well and all that good stuff done. So I'm thinking maybe we need to get ahead of the curve on this, since Green Township couldn't get a response. Our business is even less than what they provide.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking maybe we ought to consider a change as well, maybe with these guys, maybe not, right? So point of discussion is just to bring this up, have you think about it. If you want to do some research, you know, before the next meeting, maybe the next meeting we can start to discuss what we think we want to do, throw out some ideas. And then maybe 2 or 3 meetings from now, we can make a decision and see if we're going to stay where we're at, if we're going to change.
We can't use that one we used to use, huh? That was up right in Township.
Baker?
Michael Baker, we can't use them guys anymore.
No, he spun that off. He doesn't do it anymore.
Oh, he spun it off.
This fella here, this AG Squared, that fella used to work for Daniel Baker.
Okay, that's the same guy.
Yes.
So now he won't respond no more.
Well, Green Township said it's been taking weeks. Because whenever I was up there, I wanted to find out why they were thinking about replacing them. Because we haven't had a need for a while, but we are, as we're moving forward with these homes being torn down and such, folks may want to do something else with that piece of property. So we're going to need to know what the code says for all that stuff, right? And while we don't need to know, but we need to have people who will respond and provide that information.
Right.
Because we need to stay away from providing that information. It needs to be the pros. So that's why I was thinking, moving forward, maybe we ought to, if Green Township had the trouble, do we want to wait and go ahead and have the trouble? Or do we maybe want to think about change, right? So that's why it was put on here as a discussion point, just to throw it out there, get folks thinking about it, and see what they think, or other companies that they've heard of, or whatever, right? We don't have to do the same thing that Green Township did.
Right.
But if it makes sense to do that, then maybe that's what we do, right? So, Paul looks like he's got a comment.
No, I mean, what you've said here is that you haven't had any, I guess what's a little difficult here is you haven't had any activity that required an SEO. So,
Right.
I mean, simply, I'm not aware of what happens in Green Township or what their relationship is with them. I mean, there a lot of communities in the county have AG Squared. I'll also say there weren't a lot of options out there either. But
Right.
yeah, it's entirely up to you what you want to do with that.
I will characterize the meeting from my own viewpoint, and it was that Green Township was reluctant to have to do this. They didn't really want to change, but their residents weren't getting the service that they needed to get, and so they were forced into it.
Yeah.
That is how I would characterize what I saw at the meeting. Over the last 2 meetings, actually, that they discussed it before they made the change.
I'd be interested in knowing, hearing a little bit if EADS holds to the 48 hours. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Promises and action is two different things.
Sure. Well, we can probably get a feel for that
Yeah.
because we're not making any change immediately,
Right,
right?
right,
We're just throwing this out as for discussion,
Yeah.
and we'll have an opportunity to see how that company's working out for green. You know, whether there's any others out there that we might consider. I think, like Paul said, it was a rock and a hard place trying to find an SEO to begin with in this area. So now that this Altoona company's putting an office out here in Beaver County, they might be an option. So, all right. Any other questions or anything on that? Nope. All right. Code Sys. So I've had some dealings now with Code Sys building code inspector. Joy's old place, I put in a breezeway between the garage and the home, right? And they had gone to Green Township and they had gotten a packet to be able to do the permits and such.
Exactly.
The contractor never did the permits.
Exactly.
I approached Code Sys about it and got a response back. I can't remember who I talked to. I talked to a lot of people. And second of all, the gentleman had called me from his home phone number. And so all I did was, reply on my phone, right, to call him back. And he was questioning me how I got his home phone number because he works out of his cell. It's like, well, you called me from your home number. All I did was hit, reply. I had no idea it was your home number. So I told him in the future I'd call him on his cell, make sure to do that. But this goes back to before we had the second story across from the store. They did that second story work there. Obviously should have been coded, and he just visualized it and said, no, it's okay, right? No permit done for that. So if we have a permitting, somebody who's supposed to be tracking that stuff who's not doing it. When Bill did his proper, Keith did his proper. In Bill's case anyways, he said, that he wasn't even going to come back and look at it, right?
No. So he gave me free rein. When you tell somebody you got to do it this way, but I'm not going to come look at it. So what do you do?
Right.
Yeah.
He was back 3 times, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, did he come down to your place to
3
double check
times.
it? Yeah. Well, your install was it was a heavyweight, it carried a fair bit of weight, right?
There's a lot of weight going to that breezeway thing.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's
So
a lot right here on this.
here's with the
upper deck
breezeway. It adjoins a garage, so there's drywall requirements on the garage side for fire. It has a roof on it, so that requires permit. And over to 32 inches in places there, that requires a permit. The reluctance of Code Sys to follow up on this is the same as we had the resistance to following up across from the store. And so in my opinion, the borough is not getting the support that we need from that service.
Did he not say I don't get the permit, I don't inspect?
He didn't say that to me.
Oh, okay.
But at the end of the day, if we, are wanting to do this stuff properly, I mean, the idea with the code stuff is, of course, safety to begin with. And two, for the buyer, the next buyer that comes along, they got something that was done properly. It's not hidden or improperly done, or an insurance problem by not having drywall on the garage side of that breezeway. So, it's incumbent upon us to make sure that folks are doing that stuff right. And if our code guys aren't responsive, I think they need to be replaced.
And if that guy knows, from what Grandy told me, that code guy knew that there was a problem there. He should have been down there.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned Randy said that
Yeah.
he did have responsibility, I guess,
Yeah.
to follow
Yes.
up on that, especially when we called him and told him what was going on, right?
Yes. There was a permit violation and everything else.
Yeah.
He should have been there.
So again, this is for discussion, no decisions, whatever, but if folks have ideas, thoughts, maybe other companies that we might consider, what our options are, that's why I threw this out for a discussion point, because we've had some personal experiences right here at the table. It's not all third hand. And of course, I've had the first-hand experience with the breezeway stuff. The owner obviously wanted to do it correctly. They went and got their permit pack and then just never did the final piece of the work. And, the contractor has his responsibility to get that done. And he just flat out didn't do it. And I had called the homeowner and mentioned about the permits and stuff, and she said she would have a conversation with the contractor. You know, I'm sure she probably did,
Yeah.
and he still didn't respond. And our code guy didn't
I
respond.
had a conversation with him.
Oh, did you? Well, there you
Yeah,
are.
that day I went over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard somebody was measuring over there. Was that you? Or
No,
somebody
that
else?
wasn't me.
I heard somebody was over there measuring.
You called me that one day and wanted to.
Yeah, I didn't go up measuring or anything, no, because
No,
I had
I
to enter the
didn't.
property. I wasn't
Leonard,
gonna do
Leonard told
that.
me somebody did.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
But at any rate, you had a
That
conversation
wasn't
with the
me.
contractor. He still didn't do the permitting.
yeah,
Yeah,
he was supposedly going to the township building that day.
yeah. And with the
Yeah.
code, and they didn't, I checked in with the township and they didn't do the paperwork. And the code guy's not following up. So I think we really need to consider replacing those guys. Because we're not trying to be the police on this whole thing, but
Couple questions.
sure.
Because I'm not sure how this relationship with Green works, but is it not Green Township that issues your building permits?
That's correct, and that's why the contractor and the owner got their permit back from Green Township.
Okay. Does Green Township have Code Sis?
Yes, they do.
Okay. When, I understand this individual from Code Sis, I mean, I've dealt with them in a couple other municipalities. They come and they do certain inspections. He works for a company here, which is Code Sis. In your situation there, if you have, Green Township issues that packet, but whose responsibility is it to follow up on if things don't get done and by way of that building? What's your arrangement with Green? I mean, do they have someone out there, or is it? Are you expecting this fella from Code Sis to chase down? I mean, the person following through.
Yeah, the expectation was that Code Sis would enforce that piece of it, saying it needed to be done. To go do, because we reported what is obviously a violation, and to not even go to look at it is negligence from my viewpoint.
Well, I mean, your situation is unusual, so that's why I'm asking the question.
Yep.
Is that I'll give you an example. Another municipality that has Code Sis, but they also have a code enforcement officer, a zoning officer in the municipality.
Right.
So there are certain things that are done by those officials, and then there are inspections and approvals that are done by Code Sis. You don't have a local person, you're dealing with Green Township. Do they have a local person, or do they have Code Sis come out and do everything? What do they have out there?
They have Code Sis do everything when
They have a zoning officer too.
Oh, do they have a zoning
That's what I'm
officer?
saying. They
Glenn told me
probably
that.
have.
Because they told me that he basically lived down there whenever they were doing the store.
Yeah.
When they put in a Dollar General.
So I mean, there's the question here. Is it? I don't know where that answer is because I don't know your history with Green Township. Okay. Typically, though, what you see is okay. They give the packet. If there are required inspections, people from Code Sis come out and do those inspections. But the follow-up, you have a local officer that follows up. Who issues a citation if that person, who gives a cease and desist order? Who does that in this process? Maybe you need some clarification with that. That this is something that's a little different here because you are dealing with, you have an
We're
arrangement.
basically contracting it out. We pay them, but they get paid for each permit they put out. $50 or something, you said, doing the paperwork?
Yeah, so all that Green Township is doing for us is the secretary type work, right? So there's a $50 stipend for that. But that is it. There's no other intergovernmental agreement around zoning officers and things like that. All they are doing is the paperwork for us because this building is not open every day.
Okay.
And so Code Sis told us we'd have to put in a phone line and a fax machine and all the stuff so they could do business out of here, right? So we asked Green Township to perform that function instead. And that's why they get the $50 for the time that they spend taking care of that paperwork and filing it as well for us. Although the permits issued per quarter, is it, or month? Monthly. Connie does that report. She talks to Green Township to see if anything got done down here, and then she files that piece. So really, they're just
File a
doing
report with the county.
with the county, yeah. So Green Township at this point is only doing the paperwork and storage, filing the paperwork as well.
Pass through,
Well,
Mhm.
basically.
yeah, I mean,
And that, again, that's just because of this building, it's not open all the time.
oh, I understand.
And we didn't want
I
to
get that.
necessarily spend, for as many permits as we see in a year, we didn't want to spend the money to put in phone lines and faxes and all that stuff to this building.
Yeah, as far as those inspection services, I know when that Uniform Construction Code went into effect, there was pretty much most or I'd say the vast majority of the municipalities in the county either had middle department or code sys. And I have municipalities with both. And but in those instances, the municipality has somebody that would regulate follow-up,
So
completion.
is that the type of function that Randy does anywhere, or is that outside of what he normally does?
Well, you hired him here as code enforcement, which is going in and enforcing as needed various property concerns. Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, you could talk to him about that, but I don't know that that's what you originally discussed with him. I think
No.
it was for that
No, it's
original
not.
purpose.
He asked us, he asked me if we had ever adopted the uniform building code.
Yeah, we did.
You did by ordinance.
Yes.
I
By
was
ordinance,
told.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I couldn't remember, but
Yeah.
Pretty much the state told everybody they were gonna.
Yeah, and when
So we did adopt the uniform construction.
you
yes.
when you adopted that ordinance, you had choices there as to whether or not you had someone on staff that was trained. You were able, if you had a person that was qualified on staff, to do it yourself in-house, or you go to a third-party inspection agency, which is what most of the county did.
And at that point in time, when that all happened, Code Sys actually came here and did a presentation. They were pretty active in going around to the municipalities.
In your discussions with Green, are they having any issue with
no,
codes?
they're perfectly
They're not.
happy.
No, they were
I
surprised.
talked to Glenna for quite a while about it.
They were
We had an
surprised.
off the record conversation, and
Probably because they have administrative staff of some sort over
Yeah.
there to follow up on
Yeah.
things. Whereas I understand you're saying you'd have an agreement with them for the paperwork, but who's the person that got? I can tell you in the municipalities that I have that have Code Sys, none of them require or expect this individual to do all of that follow-up. They do the inspections as required, but they're not the local official that would follow these people. So, you have a little different scenario there, but, yeah.
so even if you
you'll
have
to-
somebody say, okay, they say, Bill, you're the guy supposed to go make sure they have a permit. What do you do if they don't have a permit? You have no enforcement action.
You should have an.
Oh, you got to stop working. Screw you, you know.
Well, we have
You
the
were able to
ordinance.
do that.
The
You were able to
ordinance
do
is the
that.
UCC. yeah.
You're able to have a cease and desist order. You're able to issue citations. That's all done.
Yeah.
You're not helpless in that situation. You may not have the correct administrative structure right now,
No,
but I can tell you that exists. You're not helpless in that scenario.
We are right now.
Well, maybe
what I'm
by
into.
your own design.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
The lack of knowledge.
well, I think probably what you should do is look into some things here. Maybe do some follow up and check with. You can check down the street here at Green, see what they do by way of their administrative function there in their own community. who does that follow-up. And you could check with Randy, see if he's interested in doing that type of work for you. I just, sitting here listening to this seems unusual to me. I'm not defending this individual. I haven't had any involvement here in Hookstown, but it sounds to me though that maybe the expectations aren't really properly aligned here with the reality of your setup.
And we've never gotten that feedback. All we got was an eyeball, it looks fine, and that's that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and that's just on the building side. On the electrical side, I've dealt with the electrical side of Code System. He was great.
Okay.
He did everything he was supposed to, and all the work was done properly and all that. So,
Yeah,
but
I mean, the other thing is that's a company. This fellow is an employee of that company. Have you ever made any complaint to the company itself as to what the specifics were here?
no.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I think there's some things you need to look at. You need to examine your whole procedure here and take another look at it and try to walk your way through what needs to be done.
All right.
And ultimately, if you want to make a change, you can make a change. But typically, I remember when this all started. Municipalities had presentations from both of those companies that I mentioned, and the fees were relatively close to one another, and I haven't had complaints about either one really at most of my municipalities. So I think you really need to take a look at the procedure you have in place and maybe what can be done to fix that up a little bit.
Yeah, because we've had several go-rounds. It would have been nice if that individual had said, "We don't do that." I never heard that phrase.
Yeah.
All I heard was, "It's fine," blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So, all right, now it's good counsel. We'll look into what's going on and see what the zoning officer situation is, what that box diagram looks like, right? What the flow is for how Green is doing it. We can talk about it and go from there. Sound good? And see if Randy's interested in maybe doing that function as well. I don't know. I don't know if he wants
He
to get
said he's
involved.
capable.
I don't doubt he's
He told
capable.
me.
I gotta tell
He's
you.
capable, yeah. He said he can use the building code for stuff. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the Uniform Construction Code's pretty clear. We never institute any ordinances above and beyond that, even though you can. We never did, so ours is the base.
yeah, that came up with the lack
UCC.
of running water.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other conversation on building code stuff for the moment? I'll make sure to get together the information for our next meeting of how the flow works for, say, Green Township, and
I'm pretty sure they use their zoning officer.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I think.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, a simple "we don't do that" somewhere along over the last 2 years would have really changed the direction of this whole thing. And that never happened.
Right.
Yeah. All right, next item down, Act 13 report has been filed. We got a postcard telling us we need to get her done. So that happens to be the Marcellus impact fee. We have to every year tell them how we use that.
That's on the back here.
So that's on the back here is all the different categories that you're allowed to use that fee for. And every year with the amount of money that we spend on road work, we've always put it in as that it was, went towards our road work, which is really what it's being used for.
So this is the amount we got?
The $267.31.
Okay.
Yeah. There's been less in prior years. It's actually climbed up a little bit over the last couple of years. When it started out, I want to say it was around 155.
We're not going to get rich off of it.
No. I forget what it's based on. I think it's population. I think. But I'm just glad somebody came out out to the outskirts here.
Yep.
So we're filed for that, and I've got prior years and stuff. If anybody wants to look through this stuff, we've got it. Just have to remember to do it. I need to add it on the list. It doesn't show up on our municipal webpage. It tells us what reports we have to do. It's a complete separate website, so.
I got the little postcard. I'm like, what did I forget to do now?
Well, I think I might have had the only login information and stuff for it, so I sent a copy to Connie today to make sure that she knew the site and the login and all that stuff, so. Not that you couldn't contact them and get another account going, but, that's how it got, that's how it was filed anyhow. So as far as I know, we're up to date on all the stuff we're supposed to file.
Till the next fiscal.
Yeah. Well, you had that little packet, right?
Yeah,
I'll get
and I
through that at
was
some
marking
point.
it all off as I was doing it, and
Yeah.
that wasn't on there.
Oh, that wasn't on there, yeah. All right, that's the end of the agenda items that I have. Does anyone have anything else? No? All right. Next meeting, Monday, June 10th, 7 PM. And we have a motion to close our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, sir. All right. Good to go.